Football Game Plan NFL All-32 show where we break down every game every week across the NFL. I am David Hassagen. With me is the czar of the playbook, Emery Hunt. We saw two quarterbacks benched last week. Another rookie QB make his debut in primetime. What does Week 7 have in store for us? Let's do a little buy or sell. We're getting close to the midway point, and we start in Carolina. Cam Newton? What Cam Newton? Carolina's been powering through behind Christian McCaffrey. The question is, though, buy or sell, is Newton done? Is he no longer the starter in Carolina?
Selling this because the foolishness is coming out now with the talk of Kyle Allen taking over what could be a healthy Cam Newton. A healthy Cam Newton, Kyle Allen doesn't exist. Kyle Allen is doing exactly what you want your QB2 to do. If anything, you want to start looking at the rookie Will Grier like, man, you let Kyle Allen usurp you and take this job and really put a stranglehold on this position. You have to do a lot in next camp to even make the roster, and you were a second-round pick. So this is more of an indictment on Will Grier. If they decide to move on from a healthy Cam Newton, maybe one of the dumber moves we've seen a franchise make outside of Atlanta, getting rid of Brett Favre and moving him to Green Bay. So a healthy Cam Newton, to me, is still the quarterback. So I'm selling this, although many people right now in the media are buying this BS.
Kyle Allen has done a good job filling in. Now, has not thrown an interception, but he is not of Cam Newton caliber.
But at the end of the day, he did well last year when he stepped in and started the Week 17 game against New Orleans. He's a good quarterback, but to me, I think he's limited as far as his ceiling is concerned. What we're seeing now is probably going to be the best of Kyle Allen. If I'm Will Grier, I'm like, man, I have to step my game up. Otherwise, I won't be on the roster.
Next buy or sell coming up are the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas has lost 3 games in a row. They lost this past week to the winless New York Jets on the road. There are some big trouble, but how big of a problem do the Cowboys have? Is Jason Garrett going to get fired here? Are the Cowboys in big trouble?
I don't think they're in big trouble. I'm selling this as well because I think the Cowboys are still a good football team with all of the issues that we saw against the New York Jets. Gallup's drop passes, egregious drop passes. They play without Amari Cooper. They play without Randall Cobb. Their defense had them in the game. Their defense gave up 2 big plays, obviously, but that score was only 24-22 with the chance to even had a chance to get the onside kick. Had they been more aware, Demaryius Thomas fumbled that thing like 3 times and the Cowboys could have jumped on it. But I think the Cowboys are still in great shape. This week, they have a huge matchup against Philadelphia. What we now know is the mediocre NFC East, record-wise, but Philly, I believe, is still a good team. You look at the Cowboys being a good team. The Giants are only 1 game out. The Redskins play solid defense. You figure at some point, if they can get the ground game going like they did against the Dolphins, they'll fight their way back into the conversation to play spoiler. But right now, I don't think it's all doom and gloom for Dallas. They just had 2 tough losses. I think they can get themselves back on the right track this week, so I'm selling them in super trouble.
The hot seat's still very hot, though, for Jason Garrett at this point. No one's safe ever in Dallas. Let's move on to the last one here. Marcus Mariota, one of the 2 quarterbacks benched in Tennessee. Now the question is he out permanently? The Titans have struggled all year. Marcus Mariota, is he done as a Titan starting quarterback?
Yeah, I'm buying this one because you look at his classmate in Jameis Winston, who went number 1. He got benched as well. He had his struggles with turnovers, constantly turned the ball over with interceptions. And for Marcus Mariota, he just doesn't look, I don't want to say good, but he just doesn't look talented as far as like a guy you could put confidence in. If you had to say, would you go into a game with Jameis Winston or Mariota as your quarterback, you're probably going to choose Jameis Winston because at least you've seen something from Winston that could inspire you. Man, he throws a really good ball. He's confident. He doesn't let mistakes bother him. Yeah, his turnovers bother you, but you see him having some semblance of talent. We still don't know what Marcus Mariota does really well, and I think because of that, it's like, maybe we can get more from Tannehill, or maybe we get more from a draft pick next year. Although I think Tannehill and Marcus Mariota are one and the same. They're the same guy. There's a reason why Tannehill is not in Miami anymore. So people thinking that Tannehill is going to make them better as a team is not a good bet to take. I think Mariota is out next year for Tennessee. I'm not selling this. I think this is a big buy for Tennessee. They have to get better because right now their offense is holding them back.
Certainly going to keep an eye on all the quarterback situations. It's very fluid right now. Let's get into our Thursday night game for Week 7, an intriguing one. Kansas City goes to Mile High to take on the Broncos. The Chiefs are in uncharted waters. They're losers of 2 in a row at home. They now take on a defense in Denver who had 7 sacks last week and have not allowed an offensive touchdown in back-to-back weeks. What are the 3 keys to victory for these two teams who are going in separate directions?
Well, for Kansas City, it's can you stop the run? You look at teams last couple of games have had their success running the football against Kansas City. Carlos Hyde had a really good week running the football against Kansas City last week. So can they stop the run? Second, can they maximize their opportunities inside the red zone? They have to start coming away with touchdowns. This is a team that when we look at them on paper, man, they're going to put 40 points up on a game. And now they get Tyreek Hill back. He's healthy. He scored 2 touchdowns last week against Houston. So their offense has to maximize their opportunities. And defensively, it's about getting to the quarterback. If they can affect the pocket, get to the quarterback, they didn't sack Deshaun Watson last week, they have an opportunity to get Joe Flacco on the ground. When you look at Denver in this ball game, for the Broncos, the lean on the running game. Dance with the person you brought to the party. That's their ground game, allowing Flacco to operate off play action. They got talented receivers, so they can win those games out there on the perimeter as well. The offensive line is my second point. They have to be able to not allow this day be the day Kansas City's pass rush gets up to speed and affects the pocket. That has to be the first and foremost point that offense has to make. Offensive line has to step up in allowing your playmakers to make plays. And on the third, special teams. Win the special teams battle out there in Mile High. Do what you have to do to win this ball game against Kansas City. Playing 2 of the 3 aspects of the game really well, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, got to win 2, not 3. If they can win all 3, that's great. But if they can win 2, I think they got a chance.
Do the Chiefs recover? Who wins this ball game?
I think the Chiefs will recover and win this ball game. Offensively, it's hard to keep them under wraps. I think their floor is 24 points. Regardless of who they're playing, great defense or not, they're going to score 24 points. Denver, I don't know, man. I don't know if they can get 24 points offensively with how ineffective and inconsistent they've been in finishing drives. Now, they had some success, but I think Kansas City has more than enough talent and more than enough productivity to get the job done against the Broncos.
And we'll see what that Chiefs defense is really made up against this team, a team they should be able to control relatively well. When we come back, we'll break down all of the Week 7 action right here on the Football Game Plan NFL All-32 show on the Game Plus Network.
Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense.
Welcome back to the NFL All-32 show. Now it's time to take a look at all of the Week 7 action across the league, starting with the 1 p.m. games. This week, the Steelers, Browns, Panthers, and Bucks all have a bye. Our first contest between 2 struggling teams. The Falcons can't stop anybody, and the Rams, who struggled on offense, just 7 points last week. Something has to give in this matchup.
Well, you look at the Rams offensively, and they are loaded with playmakers. You have the receivers, you have the tight ends, you have good depth in the backfield, and Todd Gurley hasn't been Todd Gurley, but you still have Darrell Henderson, you have Malcolm Brown. The problem has been the offensive line was a little reshuffled this year, and Jared Goff hasn't had the success. So his non-success has led to their offense sputtering. Still a very good team on defense, still have the playmakers there on offense to be successful. This is a game where you can't allow the other team's weakness to be a strength. For the Falcons, their offense can score. Defensively, like you mentioned, they can't stop anybody. They had the Arizona Cardinals looking like the 95 Rams or 96, 99 Rams out there, last weekend throwing the football and guys were running wide open. So when you look at defense versus offense, I'm going to always side with defense. And even though this game features a ton of talent on offense on both sides for both teams, I like the Rams' defense. I think their defense will give them more opportunities with the ball to finally get it together. I think it's going to be because of their defense the Rams knock off Atlanta.
Let's move now to the AFC East. The Dolphins taking on the Bills. Miami still winless despite returning to Fitzmagic last week. Came up just short against Washington. The Bills coming off a bye with easily one of the best defenses in the NFL. This game could get ugly.
I think the best defense in the NFL. You talk about safety play that's just excellent. Defensive line play that can stop the run and also pressure the quarterback. Linebackers that are active and can flow across the field and also drive back in coverage and play well. Complete defense here. It's going to be hard for Miami to win. Even though the Bills are coming off of a bye, you have the question about Russ. I worry about the Bills' offense, and the Dolphins' defense did a great job, I thought, early on against the Washington Redskins, but I don't see their offense having enough firepower to knock off Buffalo. Buffalo's defense is smothering. And if the offense starts to click and starts to produce points, they can go from being a really good team, a really good story in 2019 to maybe a playoff Super Bowl contender this season. So this defense is that good. Offensively, if they can get together, they'll be dangerous.
Another game between two teams that are struggling in our next one. Jacksonville taking on Cincinnati. Cincinnati still winless so far. Jaguars, not quite the explosive offense that we thought with Gardner Minshew coming in, but still should be a good game.
Surprised that the Bengals are still winless. I thought they should at least have 2 victories on their record right now, but you are what your record says you are. And you talk about Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew has come back to earth a little bit, and I think the offense really has to get out the gates flying, and they can't wait till the end of the game to try to turn it on and play 2 minutes and move themselves down the field. This is the game where I think Cincinnati gets their first win. So I think the Bengals do a great job of playing good special teams. I think they'll do a great job in this one, and I have enough, especially in the passing game. I can trust Andy Dalton to get the job done in the passing game with or without Jalen Ramsey back there. I like the Bengals.
Back to the NFC North for our next one. Vikings taking on the Lions. Kirk Cousins put on a show against Philadelphia last week, but the Lions defense has been quietly one of the better ones in the NFC. This is going to be a good matchup.
Yeah, you have 2 good defenses in this ball game, and offensively, you look at, quarterback play. Yes, you can have some inconsistent play with Kirk Cousins. You can also have the same type of play with Matt Stafford. Both receiving cores, I'll probably give the side to Minnesota in this ball game. And I would have to give Minnesota the edge overall because Dalvin Cook has played phenomenal football. And when you look at the Minnesota Vikings team and the potential of what it could be last week, what they did against Philadelphia, they have a complete offense. They have a complete defense. Detroit, defensively, I think they're solid. I love their special teams. Offensively, could be inconsistent from week to week, especially their ground game. So I like the Vikings to win this one.
Kirk Cousins blocking out some of the haters that
he did a great job last week. I have to give him credit for it because I've been riding him pretty hard. But when he plays well, when he plays like that with that mentality of I'm gonna just go for the jugular, that's the type of mentality you have to have sustained success in the NFL. He did a great job.
Next game we go up to Green Bay. The Raiders taking on the Packers. What does Oakland need to do to rebound? They've been better than what people thought at 3-2, but the Packers have looked strong in every facet.
Well, they're coming off of a win because they had the bye last week because they were the first team to play in London. So the Raiders played a great game against Chicago. They nearly let it slip away, letting the Bears come back in that ball game. Green Bay, we know what they can do on offense. Defensively, I think they're right there with the Bears. So this is going to be a similar test for the Raiders. I like the Packers in this ballgame. I like their ability to run the football, and I think that's going to be the formula for them moving forward. To be honest, the Raiders are probably one of the more surprising teams right now in the NFL and how well they've played in all of their games. So I think this will be a close game, but I do like Green Bay.
Talking about going over expectations, our next game on the schedule, Texans taking on the Colts. Deshaun Watson has been excellent for Houston. He's finally got that offense working, but the Colts have been very, very good as well, but both defenses are also very strong.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You have the 2 quarterbacks in this ball game, Deshaun Watson and also Jacoby Brissett. We've seen both run games step up and be a big part of the reason why they've had success. So these 2 teams quietly are evenly matched. Where they have an opportunity or where the Texans have an opportunity, Will Fuller. I know he dropped 3 potential touchdowns last week against Kansas City. They're going to have him have another big day that he had 2 weeks ago because I think he will draw the ideal matchup in the number 3 cornerback for Indianapolis or have him in the slot where they move him around. So I like Houston in this ball game. Deshaun Watson is playing MVP caliber football. I know the Colts are coming off that bye week. Much needed rest for them. Their defense is excellent, but there's something about Deshaun Watson I just like, and I think this guy will have enough. He's the Michael Jordan, like his college coach said, and he's done a great job showing that so far this year and leading his team to victory. I like Houston.
One last game to talk about before we take a quick break, and that is the Cardinals taking on the Giants. Arizona snuck out with a win last week. The Giants continue to improve on defense despite taking a couple losses. This should be an interesting ball game.
I think this is going to be one of the more entertaining games of the weekend. The Cardinals play an interesting brand of football where they're throwing the football a lot, but it's always entertaining to watch because it's constantly moving, and there'll be some big plays downfield. There'll be some big plays by Kyler Murray. And you're right, the Giants' defense has gotten better. They had an opportunity to beat New England. They were in that ball game with a chance to win 9 minutes or so in the fourth quarter. if Daniel Jones can protect the ball and be a lot better in that regard, get back to more of what we saw him do against Tampa, maybe they should start allowing his legs to be more a part of the offense instead of making him just a pocket passer. Take advantage of his athleticism while he still has it, while he's young. Do that now and let him continue to grow into a pocket passer. But I do think the Cardinals win this ball game. I love how aggressive they've gotten defensively. They're starting to find ways to get to the quarterback. You're starting to see Kyler Murray develop some confidence, becoming more of a leader on that football team. Again, he knows his offense better than anybody. This will be a back and forth affair when it'll come down to the last 5 minutes of the game. The Giants, I think, are playing a lot better than their record indicates, but I think Arizona gets another win on the road.
And you get the top two quarterbacks from this past year's draft facing off against each other. That'll be a fascinating matchup. After this short break, we're going to go over all of the later and primetime games coming up in Week 7 here on the Game Plus Network. Stay with us.
Man, it's that old thing, perseverance, consistency, hard work. My goal is to put the same work into, my businesses, my family that I put into football, and I've been running with that mantra since I got married back in '97, that if I'm going to have a successful marriage, I got to, the same hard work and same consistency and discipline I had on the football field, I got to put in my marriage and with my kids and with my businesses and all that. So it teaches you a lot, man. How to deal with your fellow man and not look at his color, but look at what he can do for the overall good of what you're trying to accomplish. So sports to me in general is just an incredible deal when you talk about football specifically because of the closeness of guys. I just believe it's an amazing sport.
Welcome back, fans. Let's get back to the Week 7 predictions. San Francisco 5-0 for the first time since 1990. They have looked dominant. It could be a long day at home for the Redskins in this one in the nation's capital. The defense for the 49ers is for real. You
know what happened in 1990 when the 49ers were 5-0 and they looked to be the clear-cut team to go to the Super Bowl? The New York Giants made them look bad in that NFC Championship game. Still remember that game vividly. That was a great contest, one of the best games in NFL history. With all that being said, the 49ers defense is for real. I think the Redskins do a great job of applying pressure at times. They can put a little bit of the clamps on an offense. I still don't fully trust the 49ers offense, but I do trust them enough, more so than the Redskins. I think when you look at Washington, it won't be long before we see Dwayne Haskins. The running game is now starting to come into fruition for the Redskins, and the passing game wasn't a good compliment. Yeah, Terry McLaurin has done a great job as a rookie, but I think the Redskins will eventually go to Haskins and get him some reps, and we'll see this team start to transform. But I do like San Francisco to win this one.
Let's move on to our next one here. Two teams looking for any kind of momentum. Chargers taking on the Titans. Mariota benched for Tannehill. Chargers struggled on Sunday night in the first half, came back a little bit in the second half, but Rivers did not look like himself. What do these teams have to do to get back on the winning track?
Well, this may be the ugliest game of the weekend because I think both defenses are game, and both defenses will keep each other's offense sputtering. As always, it does in games like this. Which quarterback do you trust? Do you trust Phillip Rivers, the future Hall of Famer, or do you trust the combination of whether it be Tannehill or Mariota? I'm going to go with Phillip Rivers. I think they'll eventually get it together. They have a little bit more playmakers, a little bit more continuity within what they do. So I think Los Angeles gets back on the winning track by knocking off Tennessee.
Let's move now back north to Illinois. The Saints taking on the Bears. The Saints were inadvertently blessed by the Pope before their game last week, but they might need some divine intervention against the Chicago defense, which has been outstanding. The question is now, can the Bears get enough offense to prevail against Teddy Bridgewater?
Right, because they're going to need enough offense, because if you're going to talk about good defenses, what has been the most undertold story in the Saints' 3-game winning streak or 4-game winning streak has been their defense. You saw why they brought in Eli Apple. He's provided a perfect complement to Marshawn Lattimore. Cam Jordan is playing MVP level on the defensive side as far as applying pressure and being stout versus the run. That entire Saints defense is very good versus the run. DeMario Davis is doing a great job. So the defense for the Saints, I think, will do a good job in keeping this offense of Chicago sputtering. Again, they are coming off of a bye, so an extra week to work out the kinks and try to figure out how to get progress from this offense. They're loaded with playmakers, but I like the Saints to win this game. I think the Saints are just playing on a different level than Chicago. Even though this defense will challenge Teddy Bridgewater to make some tight window throws, I think he's up for the task. And they may be without Alvin Kamara, so they may have to lean more on Bridgewater than usual.
Let's move into what could be the game of the week. The Ravens taking on the Seahawks. Lamar Jackson last week, the first quarterback in the Super Bowl era with 200 passing and 150 rushing yards. The Seahawks, though, have looked good everywhere. This one could be one of the best games of the season so far.
This is a huge test for the Ravens defense. We're going to learn a lot about the improvements they made. Now, they're going to be without another guy for the year in Deshaun Elliott, the safety, who's going to be gone with a knee injury. So another loss for that defense that showed a little bit last week against Cincinnati. Now, the score looks closer, but they did give up an opening kickoff return against the Bengals, so the defense really held that offense to 10 points. And so they need that type of effort against the Seahawks team. And you have to play Seattle 60 minutes because we saw them overcome a 20-6 deficit against Cleveland where it looked bad, where they were getting blown out. It looked like the Browns were going to run away with that game. Seahawks fought back, came back and won that ball game, put 32 points up on a very good defense in Cleveland. So this is going to be a tough game for Baltimore. I do like the Seahawks because of their ability to put pressure on that defense. This will be a good game to watch because you got Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson, but I think the Seahawks' ability to pressure a defense will be too much for the Ravens.
Sunday night, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on this one. The Eagles taking on the Cowboys. A huge game for a chance to win the division, but two coaches that are very much on the hot seat looking for some answers. Who wins this game at Jerry World?
Well, let's start with the Eagles. You look at what they do well. They put a lot of strain on your defense because they force you to play discipline. The RPO game, Carson Wentz's mobility and their ability with those receivers on the outside to strike quick and make tough catches along with their tight end play. They have one of the more consistent offensive lines in the game. So offensively, it's going to be a challenge for any defense, let alone the Cowboys defense. And on defense for Philadelphia, what they do is work within their defensive line and everything else builds off that. So their defensive line gets pressure, their linebackers are fast and active, the secondary does a great job of being aggressive and they make plays. When the pass rush doesn't get there or when they can't be disruptive up front, they put those guys on the back end at a disadvantage. And we know Dallas, we'll see if they'll get back Amari Cooper, we'll see if they'll get back Randall Cobb, we'll see if Michael Gallup can remember to catch the football. They have the perimeter weapons to threaten that secondary. Plus, Tavon Austin, I thought, did a great job when he had the opportunity against the New York Jets getting involved in the offense. So Dallas has to do that a little bit more. I think we'll see a bounce-back game for the Cowboys. I like Dallas to win this ball game. Dak Prescott and that offense and this Cowboys team just seems to have the Eagles' number. Dak Prescott does a great job against Philadelphia. I think they'll do a great job again and knock off the Eagles.
From one rivalry game to another one on Monday night, the Patriots at the Meadowlands taking on the Jets. A totally different Jets team last week with Sam Darnold back at full strength and at the controls. But the question is, can they get past a New England team who, although they're still receiving criticism, has still been perfect on the year?
You know what's interesting? They look great defensively. Offensively, you can't figure them out. And they sputtered against the New York Giants. Tom Brady didn't look himself. He didn't look accurate down the field. The turnover he had to Janoris Jenkins right after they just turned the ball over was very questionable. He's like, where is he throwing the football? That was way off. Edelman was running right down the seam and was wide open. So their offense is in flux right now. But they are expecting some guys back. They do get back N'Keal Harry, their rookie first-round pick. So we'll see how quickly they integrate him. They're going to re-sign Ben Watson, so we'll see how quickly that adds help to the tight end position. So we'll maybe see a different productivity level from the Patriots offense, but defensively they are outstanding. Another test for Sam Darnold to come in and play against a tough, aggressive press-style defense. We saw that last week against the Cowboys. He was able to supersede that and make that one big play in the passing game. This week he'll be challenged. Great cornerback play, and Stephon Gilmore. The safety play has been excellent for New England. The linebacking core is great. Calvin Noy, Dante Hightower. I like New England in this ball game. Lower score than people anticipate. Defense will win this game for New England, and the Jets defense will keep them in the game, but I do like the Patriots to win.
Going to be a much closer game with that Jets defense.
Absolutely.
That'll do it for the Football Game Plan NFL All-32 show. Don't forget, for all your football knowledge, go to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. Go to SoundCloud or iTunes, where you can listen to the NFL All-32 podcast, where myself, Emery, Troy Anthony, and Alex Marinoni talk about all the buzz across the NFL. We had a lot to talk about this past week. For the czar of the playbook, Emery Hunt, I'm David Hatsagen. Enjoy the Week 7 action, and thanks for watching.